Ladies and gentlemen, would you mind please remaining on your feet while we have a minute's silence in view of the activities in London today? Thank you very much.
Average 99 out of 100.
Right, so we're after him on this. Did you want any water? What? The cup. Some at the end.
You've got to feed into Dover.
Yeah. That's not too nice.
Good evening, members and officers of the Council and members of the press and public. I welcome you to this meeting of the Council. If the fire alarm is activated, please vacate the offices via the stairs through the security doors to my right or opposite the lifts in the foyer. Do not use the lifts, but please assemble in Hawley Square on the Green. The officers will assist you and advise you when it's deemed safe to return to the chamber. The proceedings of this meeting will be recorded and subsequently broadcast on the internet. I would advise that if filming takes place, anyone in attendance in the public areas may have their image captured. So I urge anyone filming proceedings to avoid filming members of the public, particularly if there are children present. Does anyone intend to film the proceedings? Thank you very much. If any member of the public objects to the possibility of being filmed, you may wish to take this opportunity to leave. Any filming or recording will not be permitted for any item of business where exempt or confidential information is considered, following the exclusion of the press and the public from the meeting. Would everyone present please ensure their mobile phones are turned to silent and that they are not used to make or receive phone calls in the chamber whilst this meeting is in progress. Thank you. Agenda item number 1, apologies for absence. I have apologies from Councillor Glenn Coleman-Cook and Councillor Iris Johnson. Are there any other apologies, please? Thank you. Yes, Councillor J. Jones.
Councillor Shaw.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Agenda item number 2, the minutes of the previous meeting. I move that the minutes of the meeting of Council held on the 23rd of February 2017 be approved and signed as a correct record. Would the Vice Chairman please second?
Seconded.
Do members agree? Thank you. Agenda item number 3, I have not been informed of any announcements. Agenda item number 4, are there any declarations of interest?
Can you advise me, or Mr Howes advise, sorry, I beg your pardon, whether or not the disbandment of this council is actually of, do we need to declare an interest?
Not making that decision.
No, you do not need to declare an interest.
You're not making that decision, are you?
No, that's not tonight's decision. Thank you. Agenda item number 5 then, the business case for the single East Kent Council. I'd like to allow a full and comprehensive debate of this important item if members wish to do so. However, I would politely ask members to try and avoid repetition when addressing the Chamber during the course of the debate. I call then upon the leader, Councillor Wells. Councillor Bayford.
I'm sorry, Chairman, I was just indicating I'd like to speak when the debate begins.
No.
I'm very happy with I'm very happy with the way the proceedings are going so far. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much.
I hear that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to be very brief in introducing this item. I just want to make 3 or 4 very simple points and then sit back and listen to whatever debate may follow, as clearly we have some very eager participants to come. In July last year, this council, in concert with 4 other councils at that time, put forward a proposal that they want to actually research a business case with an independent consultant in order to see whether or not a sensible merger of 5 councils could be put together. As you all know, we reported to this council back in January this year. That business case was published, and by the time it was published, we had gone from 5 to 4 councils. And those 4 councils are all meeting tonight to look at the next stage of this process. Because in those recommendations that we passed in July last year, it did say quite simply, if the business case demonstrated that there appeared to be positive benefits that could result for all of those 4 councils, we would then look at a meeting in March of this year in order to actually move it forward for discussion with the public. Whether you call that a consultation, a public engagement, whatever it may be, we have all had the opportunity to look at the business case, see what the benefits arguably are or aren't. We have all had the opportunity to sit through briefings on this subject, both in small group and in large group formats. And you've all had the opportunity to read all 74 or so pages of the business case, and I hope it is engraved upon your hearts, yes? No? OK. We are in concert tonight with 3 other councils looking at moving this forward to public consultation to start, hopefully, tomorrow, for a period of some weeks in order to actually ask the public what they think about this case in principle, now that the business case has come forward saying there would appear to be benefits in moving in that particular direction. There are 4 recommendations tonight. Those 4 recommendations include approval for spending the excess money for the extremely good deal we actually got in terms of producing that business case. It cost us all a lot less than we actually expected in order to pay for that consultation as it moves forward. They include all of the recommendations that were put forward from the scrutiny panel when they looked at this particular subject, in between the Cabinet decision to move ahead for public consultation and the decision of this council here tonight. And I look forward to hearing what's in the debate and hope and trust that at the end of this evening's debate we will, in concert with 3 other councils, move forward to examine closely with the public the next stage in this particular journey. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wells. Do you have a seconder, please?
I'd like to second and reserve the right, please.
Councillor Bayford.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. First of all, I think I should make it clear that the Conservative group has a free vote on this item tonight. There are shades of opinion about where we might be going, and I think that it's only right that people should exercise that right to actually say what they think in representation of the electorate that they serve. I think, therefore, I need to make it very clear that what I've got to say is my view, not the group's view, it's my view. And I think that the point that the leader's made is very important to remember, that this is merely moving us on to the next stage. There will be consultation. The outcome of that, we don't know what that will be. What I'm sure of, though, is that the final shape of the new authority may not look like the business case suggests. there's got to be lots and lots of discussion. There will be lots of argument about the way things should work. And I also believe that, I know some members think that there are alternatives that we're not discussing that we should, things like more shared services, unitary, which I know is a terrible word that we're not supposed to use, but it's in the back of people's minds. And I'm sure that at the end of the day, if that becomes the right course of action for East Kent, that may be the way we'll go. But what I do think is vital, that we've got to do something. The fact is that if we just do nothing right now, we just sit here and we wait, effectively, for the bailiffs to turn up. The money's getting tighter, it will get more tight. There's no doubt about that. At the moment, I think that this council in particular is doing very well in maintaining services. But that can't go on forever. Eventually, services will be impacted upon. And I don't want to sit and wait for that to happen. I think we need to do something. I think that the proposal we've got is actually something new. If it comes about, it will be the largest second-tier authority in the country, and I think that that gives us lots of opportunities to create something new and beneficial for the residents of Thanet. I've said before, and I say it again, that an East Kent super district, or whatever we are going to be allowed to call it, probably will be able to take on some of the responsibilities of county. Equally, it will be possible to pass down to towns and parishes some services that they perhaps can deliver more effectively locally. I think the democratic process will be served by that, and I think we should do it. I'm running out of time. I just think...
Please continue, Councillor.
Blimey, I'm not ready for that. I mean, that was my get-out, because I had nothing else to say.
Well, I did say a full and thorough debate, so I'm going to be a bit generous with the time. Okay. Particularly for group leaders, even though you're expressing your own opinion.
No, listen, the fact is that really, I think the point is made. I don't know what the shape of local government will look like, but it's got to be different. And I think we've got to start now. If we don't do it now, how long is it going to be before we do start? Another couple of years, another couple of years? And one of the things that I think is really scary is that if we don't take control of our own destiny, someone else will. The government will step in and say, you've got to go this way or whatever. And I don't want us to do that. I believe it's the right thing for the residents of Thanet, and I would ask everybody in this chamber to recognise this is just going to the next step, and I think we owe it to the people of Thanet to do just that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Councillor Ken Gregory, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Just to prove that our group is not whipped, I'm going to say almost exactly the opposite. What this motion or this proposal has done has solved something that's been rolling on for the last 44 years, and that is that some people now want to keep Thanet District Council. And 44 years ago, they didn't want the thing to be here. So in the last 6 months, we've done something. But more importantly, the business plan for this proposed merger is very weak indeed. And I know it's been said, well, that's not what's going to happen. So why have we got it in front of us? It should be a proper business plan rather than something that's speculative and probably inaccurate. Then we've got the financial savings of getting rid, as they say, of a lot of chiefs and keeping more Indians, if you're allowed to say Indians. But in actual fact, as we know, if you build an aircraft carrier, it doubles in price. If you project 10% savings, you might get 2%, because that goes in the inverse way. And so really, I don't think we can rely on the savings. I agree, we have to change. Thanet District Council on its own, Canterbury, Dover and Shetway, will not survive. But there are other options out there. I know we're not discussing those options tonight, but we have an opportunity tonight to turn round and actually say, enough's enough, we need to explore all the options rather than just one. When I make a decision, I like that decision to actually be based on the information available. Not just on the information available on what's before us, but the information that's available in the real world, so that we can look at it and say, well, this actually isn't a good idea. So far, we've had an option placed before us by 4 chief executives and 4 officers, leaders rather. And the result of that is that everything else hasn't been put before us. And we really do need to have stuff put before us so that we can make a valued decision. We need to make a decision, But the comment's been made, well, we're not actually deciding to do it tonight, we're still going to move it forward to public consultation. And that right up until the final council meeting where we finally discuss it, we have the opportunity to throw it away. My fear is we're being herded like cattle into a corner and there's only one gate out. I'd prefer to have 4 gates so that I could get out the way that I really wanted to, because I know what will happen. We'll get to the top of the staircase and decide we want to come back down. We'll turn round and, oh God, the steps have disappeared. And I think this is the wrong way to be doing it. It needs more thought. It's hurried, it's rushed, the timescale is totally inappropriate. And to say that we have, oh, we could perhaps go on for another year, well, I don't even think another year's the right thing. We've got to get a move on, and I suggest now we should be getting a move on in actually looking for alternatives and then making a valid decision.
Thank you.
Okay, what I would like to do here is I would like to amend the recommendations. I'd like that to be amended in the following way, that this council gives the residents the opportunity to voice their opinions via a referendum. Why do I call for a referendum? Well, I think it would be fair. I think it would be a fair way of dealing with the residents of the town. I think it would be fair to all, give them the opportunity to express their views and to have those views properly and fully taken into consideration, which so far hasn't occurred. Now, I appreciate that that would be a cost. It would be a cost, but I think that's a cost worth paying to get the residents properly involved. I think it's about time that we really knew what the people of Ramsgate think, and we really understood what the people of Ramsgate Thanet. Sorry, I do correct myself.
Hey, Ramsgate.
The people of Thanet, all of Thanet, including Ramsgate, I think it is time that we fully understood what they want and what their views are on this matter. Thank you.
I'd like to second the proposed amendment.
Thank you, Councillor Constantine. Just for clarity, please, are you, by your amendment, seeking to add an additional, or are you seeking to change, for example, number 3? Could you write the amendment down, please?
Yes, of course.
Thank you.
And I'd like to second.
Can they actually agree to do that? Understanding the cost.
An amendment? Yeah. Whether or not.
Without the information.
And
Really?
Yeah.
So how does that work?
Councillor Constantine, just one more question, please. Just for clarity, are you proposing in your amendment that this referendum replaces the current plan to consult, or that it comes at some point later?
I think if it needs to come at some point later. Later. No, sorry. Can I just be guided by my colleagues, actually? Instead of.
Instead of the proposal, right? Thank you.
Instead of, thank you.
Would you like to... I'm going to ask the Chief Executive to say a few words before...
Can we just hear what the amendment actually is at some stage, perhaps even before any of us comment on it?
The amendment is as follows, brought by Councillor Constantine and seconded by Councillor Matterface, that this council gives the residents of Thanet the opportunity to voice their opinions via a referendum. Chief Executive, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Clearly, just to make sure that you're aware that any such agreement to this amendment would have to be subject to budget considerations and confirmation from our other 3 district colleagues who are also involved in this process. So whatever amendment you agree this evening would have to be subject to both of those points.
Can I just clarify? So, because this is part of the budget and policy framework, this would then go back to Cabinet initially for them to review the changes. Yeah.
So we have an amendment before us. Would any members like to comment on the substance of the amendment? Councillor Wells? All right, Councillor Evans, please.
Yes, I would comment. My comment would be it's too early to talk about referendums because we haven't got all the fine detail yet about this merger because we haven't even agreed to go to consultation yet. So I would urge members to vote against it.
Thank you. Councillor Wells?
Yes, I think the point about this is, you know, a referendum is a nice sounding vehicle to play with, and it's a great headline and it'll tweet beautifully. But the bottom line is, where they're talking about a budget commitment across the 4 councils as a whole of probably somewhere in the region of £300,000 to £350,000 that will have to be put together and operated. That will take a period of time. Where this was been suggested in Lincolnshire recently, it was rejected purely on the grounds of costs as well as the time related to it. And I think, given that the final decision is not due to come before us until the earliest until July, and maybe not until this autumn, the guidance in the consultation that is proposed would give us a very strong steer onto how strongly people do actually feel, and could then decide whether or not we need a referendum in due course. We've already been urged by my colleague over here that we are taking this too rushed, but actually he wants something done straight away. So, I mean, there is a degree of confusion about the approach to this, which I find quite interesting. Well, I'm told in one sense that this is speculative and inaccurate information, and in another sense we're told now we have to go for a binary yes or no decision where everybody is going to be operating on presumably speculative and inaccurate information. So I do think the consultation process is proposed, which you've all had a briefing on, gives a selection of residents the ability to look at this in some detail. That's a more sensible way forward, and it's certainly one that doesn't actually then involve having to go find yet more money to spend on something in our budget, which has been tough enough to date, and also trying to bring 3 other colleagues with us who may have an entirely different view. The view that you have before you is one that actually, in terms of consultation, has been generally agreed by all 4 councils, and as such is the best one to move forward with right now. So on those grounds I would urge Council please to reject this amendment and move back to the main proposal.
Thank you. Councillor Campbell?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Just an observation, really. I'm rather confused that the UKIP leader and UKIP members are actually against referendum. I actually thought that they'd be all in favour. I mean, they were certainly were in favour of a referendum that took place on nationally on another issue some time ago. I thought they'd be all in favour of referendum and the result of those referendums, and have confidence that the referendum would go the way that you'd actually wish them to go. Just an observation, as I say. But I do think it's appropriate. We are looking, this process, at actually the demise of the local government for Thanet, individually. Don't the residents of Thanet deserve the opportunity to have their views heard in a referendum? I think they do.
Thank you. Councillor Bayford, please.
Well, thank you, Chairman. I mean, I think everybody knows that when you hold a referendum, you often get the wrong result. So we don't want to do any of that. But seriously, quite seriously, Leader's right. I mean, if you have a referendum, it's got to be a binary question, hasn't it? And what's that question going to be? Because I would argue that if you asked all the councillors here tonight to write down what they think the new council is going to look like, you'd get 56 different views. So what are you going to ask the residents of Thanet to say whether they like or don't like? I mean, it's just totally impractical. I'm sorry. I think it's a bit of a daft idea. Sorry.
Thank you. Councillor Edwards, please.
Thank you, Chair. Would it be possible that all the involved councils sort of get invited to the Winter Gardens and they had a big conference about it for one day and see what the general feeling is around the whole area instead of just us? Thank you.
I think that's the purpose of the consultation at all four councils. One of the things that got rejected earlier was the idea that we'd actually have, there was an idea earlier on that we'd actually have all of the existing councillors come together to form the new council. I did think that putting 213 district councillors in one room would be a recipe for disaster. That is exactly, Councillor Evans, if I say so, what is happening tonight. We have four councils who are looking to move forward to consult with their own residents in their own way, but in a consistent manner across the four councils. That's what we're headed towards. That's what you're asked to approve. And I'm quite sure if I propose that we do it at the Winter Gardens, I have a funny feeling somebody else might mention the Lee Skiff Hall.
Councillor.
My apologies, sir. I just wanted to move it on. I just wondered if it was possible for us to vote on the amendment now.
Thank you very much. I've checked my list. Everybody who indicated they wanted to speak has done so. So, proposed by Councillor Karen Constantine, seconded by Councillor Jenny Matterface. The amendment reads that this council gives the residents of Thanet the opportunity to voice their opinions via a referendum, which is instead of the process that's been laid before us so far. So please may I have a show of hands, those in favour of adopting the amendment. Thank you. Those against, please. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. The amendment fails. We return then to the substantive.
Councillor Hayton.
Councillor Hayton.
Chairman, I'd like to note that I abstained on that one. Thank you.
To the motion, and Councillor Hayton, please.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Devolved government. This is a kind of devolved government, but it's hidden. It will be dissolved because other district councils will want to go as well. I've read the whole articles right the way through, not once but twice. And I believe that Councillor Ken Gregory is quite correct. I think it doesn't go far enough I want to see devolution down to parishes and town councils. People who know their towns and parishes better than we do. Better than we do in this chamber. And quite frankly, what this is happening is you're devolving this power and authority to Canterbury. Because every time I read something in that document, it is Canterbury will shed all their problems our way. Somebody asked at the Overview and Scrutiny Committee the other night what this means, construction. What that meant is building houses and for Canterbury people to live in, because we are shedding a lot of businesses up to Canterbury. They don't want us, they want the property that we're standing on and living in. And quite frankly, I'd like to see devolved situations down to the lowest denomination, as I said before, parishes and town councils, because as I said before, they know what is in the business of running a council locally is. Chairman, I will not be supporting anything on this proposition. Thank you.
Sir Hayden. Councillor Wells, you said...
Yeah, I agree that the business case does not contain a great deal about that, but the members' briefings and the discussions that took place around the members' briefings and other conversations certainly have. I gave a speech on behalf of the 4 East Kent councils at a conference in Maidstone on the 28th of February, which made it quite clear that devolution to parishes, and we had 25% of the parishes of Kent in that room that day, that devolution of parishes is an inevitability and a certainty of this particular change, because there are bits and pieces of what we do where actually the local touch of the people who, when they step outside their front door and see what they want to do with their park and the opening hours of their toilets and all those sorts of things, are fundamental and are part of the immediate parts of local life. There will even be a proposal contained within there eventually, if I have my way, that actually with a certain amount of planning requirements go down to parish and town councils as well. And that's already been done in Windsor. So there is a legal way of actually doing it. So devolution to parishes is very much part of this, and it's something that we've involved with the Kent Association of Local Councils in explaining in some detail. The difficulty, of course, with devolution down to parish councils is that they have a choice about whether they want it or not. And the pattern that is emerging over East Kent as a whole is that some want to do a lot, and some want to do a little, and some want to do nothing at all. And it's going to be a protracted form of negotiation to find out what individually each parish and town council wants to take on. And we have an additional problem, of course, in Margate, because there are bits of Margate that aren't parish, there are bits of Margate that are trusteed. And whilst I hesitate to comment too much on that, well, I'd better not, because most of it will probably be unprintable. The requirement is that we have the right sorts of devolved powers to parishes and the right sort of devolved parishes to take them on. That is an inevitability of a move like this. So you get both local skill and resilience and strength of larger contract.
Thank you, Councillor Wells. Councillor Campbell.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Obviously, this document, this issue, has been dealt with by Overview and Scrutiny. And there was a number of recommendations been mentioned by Overview and Scrutiny that went to the Cabinet quite recently. And the Cabinet have agreed that there be an amendment to the agenda for decision-making of this particular project. For instance, in the agenda, it still states that the executive decision by Cabinet of each council to proceed with the project to the new East Kent Council in July. It was agreed by the Cabinet that that would be taken by members of the council, full council members. Also, when it says in autumn 2017 final decisions, when it goes before the DCLG, yeah, that also was agreed by Cabinet to actually go to full council to decide. So tonight, we are not deciding whether or not to proceed to this East Kent 4. What we are doing is giving our residents the opportunity for them to voice their opinion on whether or not this project should go forward or not. Now, are you seriously, as representatives of your residents, going to deny them that opportunity? Are you seriously going to vote against giving them the opportunity to voice their opinion on whether they think this is a good idea or not? Well, my group certainly isn't. It's not whipped, but unanimously they decided they were certainly not going to not give them, their residents, the opportunity to voice their opinion. Indeed, I've already called a number of residents' meetings to actually ask them myself and actually tell them that there's going to be, hopefully, after tonight, an opportunity for them to impart into this process. It's their local government. They should have that decision. They should have, their voices should be heard. I urge all members, to vote for this tonight.
Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Chair. May I just echo the words of Councillor Campbell, because I am extremely concerned that there is not enough information so far for people to make an informed vote. I do declare an interest particularly in the powers of devolution. I understand that that is not specifically relevant for this evening, but I have to say that it is very much relevant to me to know exactly what decision-making powers will devolve, if they want them, to the town councils. And until that is clear on planning and capital expenditure and development, I don't think that this is well timed to ask people. Very important that we ask, but also important that we ask the right questions with the right information and sufficient information. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Ashby, please.
Thank you, Chair. Actually, what I was going to ask has been covered by Councillor Campbell. Is to reiterate, just to make it clear, page 71, 5.6, we did agree full council would replace the words for Cabinet, and on the final decision by full council. So that is the page that we're referring to. It was a recommendation from scrutiny to Cabinet, which we believe was agreed.
So yes, the changes to the timetable are on page 17 and 18, and then they say that the council will decide rather than the executive. So, just to clarify, the annex is unchanged because that's the original document, and you can't change the annex, because that's what was taken to the meetings.
Thank you very much, Chairman. I've been listening very carefully to what members have said tonight, and although I've not been a member of this authority for very long, I have been a councillor elsewhere, and the similar situation arose, which I won't bore you with the details. It's often very hard to think of potentially saying goodbye to an organisation that you might have been part of for many years. And I understand that a lot of people are very against change at all. But sometimes change can be very empowering and positive. And people I've been talking to are actually quite excited about this. You know, there's a lot of optimism. There are potentially a lot of good things that can come to the people of Thanet, I think, in the future. It's going to take an awful lot of hard work, absolutely true. And the business case that we have here, the documents, actually doesn't give us all the answers, and it can't at this stage. As others have said, I mean, it will evolve along the process. I don't think we should be frightened, though, and I don't think, on behalf of the electorate that we represent here tonight, we don't have to tell them every detail. I don't think we can't yet. I think we just have to give them the broad perspectives that this is actually a good thing, and we want to improve their lives and to attract more money and all the possible things that I hope will come should this decision be taken tonight. But I just want to say one very brief other thing, Mr. Chairman, that throughout this process, which I think, whether it happens or not, it's been unsettling for all the officers and staff of this council. I have said that before. I'd just like to repeat that we should bear in mind that the day job has to carry on whilst all the extra work has been taking place behind the scenes that I personally haven't seen any of, but I know it has. So I'd just like to pay tribute to all the staff in the offices and continue to ask for their support through this process. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. Who would like to add comments? Yes, please. Councillor Grove.
Thank you, Chairman. Well, I've listened to the debate, I've read the article, and I have spoke to the parish council and some people of the public of Minster, and all I can add to this is that Minster would welcome something on these lines, as for so many years we've been under the iron heel or the jackboot of Thanet District Council. We have called for the wilderness and the darkness and never been heard. So on behalf of the residents of Minster that I have spoke to and on behalf of the parish council, I welcome this and I shall be supporting it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, members, for all the contributions. Move to the vote. So can I please have a show of hands for those in favour of the proposal as it is before us? Okay. Thank you. Those against, please. Any abstentions, please? Thank you very much. The proposal is passed. Thank you for the discussion. Agenda item number 6. No petitions have been received by the Council in accordance with our petition scheme. Similarly, agenda item number 7. No questions have been received from the press or members of the public in accordance with Council Procedure Rule 13. Agenda item number 8. Questions for members of the Council. No questions have been received from members in accordance with Procedure Rule 14. Agenda item number 9, motions on notice. No motions on notice have been received in accordance with Council Procedure Rule 3. Agenda item number 10, the Leaders' Report. Would members please note that item number 10, the Leaders' Report, has been withdrawn. Agenda item number 11, the Annual Report, please, from the Chairman of the Overview and Scrutiny Panel. I call upon Councillor David Saunders to present his report.
Thank you, Chairman, and apologies in advance to members if my voice gives out sometime during this report. Members, despite there being 7 weeks until the Council's annual general meeting on the 11th of May, this evening I am presenting the 2016-17 annual report for the Overview and Scrutiny Panel. Firstly, therefore, and this is normally done at the annual meeting, firstly, therefore, and on behalf of the Overview and Scrutiny Panel members, I should like to take this opportunity to thank officers, particularly Charles Hungwe, for their help and support during the past year. Members, that said, pages 105 to 109 of this evening's agenda pack summarises the key achievements of the panel during 2016-17. you will know from my previous reports and as outlined in sections 5 and 6 of your papers, new scrutiny arrangements, including public speaking, were introduced in 2016 for a trial period, and although the take-up of the new arrangements have not been as anticipated, it is hoped that in the spirit of transparency, the reason that they were introduced, that they will be fully adopted and retained. My voice is given out, so I commend the report to members, and I'm happy, if I can, to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Saunders. Say wish to make? Thank you very much. Agenda item number 12, annual report from the Chairman of Governance and Audit Committee. I call upon Councillor John Buckley to present his report.
Thank you, Chair. Could I ask all members to note the report this evening outlined on page 111, agenda item 12, and the recommendations set out in the action plan on page 124. And like Councillor Saunders, I'd also like to thank all officers and members of the committee for their sterling work during the last 12 months. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Do any members wish to make any comments? Councillor Taylor-Smith.
Thank you very much, Chairman. I did have notes annotated on my agenda on ModGov, but unfortunately it died before the meeting, so please bear with me. I'll try and remember what I'd written. I'd just like to thank officers particularly, actually, for the very clear and easy to read way the reports are now set out for this meeting. It is really helpful, and I think it's a very positive move. Also, I just wanted to highlight that at our recent meeting on the 8th of March, it's important to make all members aware, as Mr. Howes has actually mentioned in the minutes that I saw today, that we actually, as a council, sign up to the local code of corporate governance. And in fact, I've printed a copy off myself because I think it's quite important. And I look forward to Mr. Howes making all members of the council aware of this. I mean, it's just all very positive, good stuff, really. But I just think sometimes things go on at meetings, and if you're not a member of that committee, you're not always aware of it. So it is important. And also like to touch on the training for members, because I think, as we all know, some of us have more skills than others, and I certainly know that I have very few, but I always am eager to learn. And so I do hope that consideration will be given very soon to a programme for the training of members of the Governance and Audit Committee as well as others, because some people do get moved from one committee to another, Mr. Chairman, and so therefore they have missed the induction training on that particular subject. Thank you.
Much. Agenda item number 13, the annual report, the Chairman of the Standards Committee. I call upon Dr. Sexton to present his report. Dr. Sexton, please can you make your way to the front bench.
Thank you, Chairman. Members will have received this report and will have read it. I simply have nothing further to add, but I'm happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Do any members wish to make any comments? Just remains for me then to thank you very much, Dr. Sexton, for your service as always.
I'm obliged, Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. The policy statement for the financial year 2017-18. I call upon Councillor Wells, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The pay policy statement sets out this council's approach to pay in accordance with Section 38 of the Localism Act 2011. The purpose is to ensure transparency regarding the council approach to the setting of employee pay. The paper represents the pay policy statement for financial year 2017-18 and must by law be approved by resolution of this council before 31st March 2017. The statement simply sets out those policies and documents which are relevant to pay and remuneration for employees of this council. I move the recommendations as contained in the report.
Thank you. Is there a seconder, please?
I second, Chair.
Councillor Fairbairn, thank you. Any members have any comments they wish to make? In that case, do members agree? Agree. Thank you very much. Agenda item number 15, the Community Safety Partnership Plan for 2017 to 2020. I call upon Councillor Lynn Fairbrass.
Thank you, Chairman. Every year, our Community Safety team coordinates the drafting of the Thanet Community Safety Partnership Plan. This year is no different, and I'm pleased to present this year's draft plan. The Community Safety Partnership consists of a number of statutory agencies, including Health, Kent Fire and Rescue and Kent Police. Data sets from all the key agencies are analysed to establish the key areas the partnership should focus on. Last year's action plan resulted in 441 joint antisocial behaviour investigations. These included 4 criminal behaviour orders, 5 civil injunctions, 2 premises closures, 5 community protection notices and 58 community protection warning notices. In addition, the partnership organised 61 community payback reparation events, and these included painting work, litter sweeps and graffiti removals. In addition to the benefit of these events from a justice perspective, they have saved other agencies from picking up these costs. The team also facilitated the support of 64 prolific offenders to foster rehabilitation and established a bespoke mental health peer support group, which is now supporting other ex-service users. Finally, the partnership enabled over 500 children to visit the Kent Safety Centre and undertook 436 home safety visits. As you can see, it's been a busy and productive year, and there are other work streams which will continue into 2017-18. In December, a practitioner event was held where good practice and ideas for next year's action plan were exchanged. A public engagement event and survey were also carried out during January to understand the areas of concern that local residents had. As the priority areas for Thanet do not alter greatly, the partnership believes that it would be more advantageous to have a longer-term plan with actions reviewed yearly rather than starting from scratch each year. Therefore, this year the team has developed a 3-year overarching plan. The Thanet Community Safety Partnership Executive Group has agreed the plan, and the overview and scrutiny panel has been part of the engagement process. The overview and scrutiny panel held a healthy discussion with robust questioning, and their feedback has been incorporated. Furthermore, Cabinet recommended that the Thanet Community Safety Partnership approve the draft plan on the 9th of March 2017. I therefore recommend that Council approve the Thanet Community Safety Plan for 2017 to 2020. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there a seconder, please?
A seconder, reserve the right, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Just to inform members that at the working party, Community Safety Working Party, the excellent officer, excellent officer Ms Bailey gave a presentation on the antisocial behaviour, new tools and enforcement powers. Well, not that new now, they've been in place for 2 years. Now, I urge the administration and the Chief Executive to actually include this presentation as a members' briefing very soon, as soon as possible. And I also urge all members to attend. You'll find it extremely enlightening, and there are certain powers in there that you can take back and you and your residents perhaps could enact. So when we do have that briefing, I urge as many members to attend. You'll find it's one of the few briefings that you'll probably find very interesting and very enlightening. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Campbell. Are there any other comments from members, please?
Councillor Campbell, I believe that there is a presentation been arranged for overview and scrutiny, and it has been suggested that we do have a members' briefing on it as well, which I think will be very informative for everybody.
Thank you. Councillor Wells, did you have any comments you want to make? No? Thank you very much. Members and members of the public and press, thank you very much for attending. That concludes the business for this meeting of the Council.